right, welcome into Starting Five after a very long delay. Took a little bit of a hiatus for the summer, but we're back. Our producer today is Manny Chang. I'm Ethan Skolnick. Follow me at Ethan J. Skolnick and at 5 Reasons Sports. Before we get to today's content, on a Wednesday, I want to thank our sponsors. Sponsor of this episode is All Pro Construction Builders. You can find Danny and his team at allproconstructionbuilders.com or All Pro Construction Builders on Instagram. Hurricane season is already here. The named storms are already coming. Make sure that you get your storm windows. Mention 5 Reasons. You get 10% off your entire order. Not only can they do the storm windows and doors, but also they can do renovations for your house. We know this is like the tightest housing market in history. So you may be staying in your home, but you want to make it look better. All Pro Construction Builders can handle that for you. Reach out to Danny and his team. They're based in Miami-Dade County, but they also service Broward and Monroe. 305-484-4429. That's 305-484-4429. All Pro Construction Builders. Also want to mention Prize Picks. Use code 5 FIVE. Get that initial deposit matched up to $100. We know that there's no NBA right now, but there is FIBA coming up here over the next week. You can play that on Prize Picks. Use code 5 FIVE. Get that initial deposit matched up to $100. Also, of course, NFL futures, soccer, all of it's on there. So go to prizepicks.com, use code 5, get that initial deposit matched up to $100, and download it from the Google Play Store, the Apple App Store, or prizepicks.com. All right. A lot of conversation about the Dolphins right now, obviously, with training camp winding down and the season starting and what they're going to do with Jonathan Taylor. We will get to an episode of that later in the week, most likely. And, of course, we will break in with coverage on the YouTube channel. Make sure you hit like, subscribe, turn the notifications on in case the Dolphins trade for Jonathan Taylor. It feels like the Dolphins have gone through these cycles of trying to make trades while the Heat are still trying to make their trade for Dame Lillard. And if you haven't been listening to 5 on the Floor lately, we recommend that you do. We're still going 4 or 5 episodes a week. Well, let me just update you on where this thing is, okay? I was told by someone pretty high up in the Heat front office in early August, actually late July. I was like, can I take some time off? They're like, get lost for a month. So this was someone who would kind of know what was going on or where this thing might be headed. So they didn't anticipate that anything was going to happen here, over the past month. And I think there are a lot of reasons for that. And we're checking out the comments here, and I'll make sure to get them up. And Manny's getting them up, and I'll make sure to read them over the course of the show. But the reason, there's just nothing to compel it right now. Like, you need a pressure point. And right now there is no pressure point because August is typically a dead month in the NBA. You had Dame doing his album release, right? Which is still going on, seems like on a daily basis. You had the James Harden situation, which created kind of a distraction, but also I think made things tenuous because you were waiting to see what the league was going to do about the way he was handling it. Well, now we know. They fined him $100,000. Dame hasn't gotten a fine. Remember, there was just a memo, but there was no fine. Now, of course, Dame didn't do anything like call Joe Cronin a liar. Teru, thanks for joining me. In the Philippines, you go see Spo. You should go see Spo. Spo's out there coaching or recruiting. New episode about Team USA is up. Which Team USA player do you think has a chance to be with the Heat someday? Do you think it's Anthony Edwards, Mikal Bridges? Alex and I went through that. So we know that Team USA typically is a launching pad for players to want to come to the Heat eventually, particularly if there's a Heat person there, and there is in Eric Spoelstra this time around. And we always appreciate our viewers from the Philippines. 5% of our viewers and listeners here on the YouTube channel are from the Philippines. You're aware of that? It's pretty cool. But anyway, there really hasn't been anything to compel it, right? We're waiting to see what happened with Harden. Okay, now we know. Even though, again, Harden pretty much did the same thing Dame did, except he went out and called, the GM a liar. But he asked for one team, just like Dame did, and nobody really reacted to the one team thing. They reacted to the liar thing. So it's, again, different rules for Miami than for everybody else. But now we're heading into the end of August. Okay, the schedule's out. Training camp is basically 4 weeks away. It's starting a little bit later this time. Miami's going to be here in the States, it appears. I don't think they're going to the Bahamas because the league does not allow you to go overseas or out of the country 2 straight years. So I know they wanted to go to the Bahamas, but it looks like that's going to be next time. So they'll be here in Miami. Portland will have their camp. And it looks like we're going to be waiting until, and I've given, this is a random date, but a random date with some knowledge, like sometime around September 15th, this thing is going to start getting more serious because that's when it's real. It's like back to school, right? Like I took my 9-year-old to back to school shopping a couple of weeks ago. we're at Target and there's nothing left on the shelves, right? You get there and we couldn't find the clipboard. We're trying to find 10 composition books. She doesn't have the highlighters she wants. And we're going through it. It's been picked apart, right? Because everybody's realized it's school time. Like, it's coming in a week or two. Like, everything you could have gotten, the whole back to school sale has been going on since July, right? But it wasn't until like August that everybody got serious. Everybody's procrastinating. Oh wait, we gotta get those index cards, okay? Or that loose leaf. They still call it a loose leaf? Probably not. And so she and I had to go to like 3 stores to get what we wanted, because Target didn't work. We went to Walmart, then we ended up at Office Depot, right? By the way, I would recommend Office Depot of those 3. They had the best school selection at that point, because nobody shops at those stores anymore. But that's kind of where we're at now. Like, it's back to school for the NBA. Okay? And Dame Lillard's on the shelf. And this is the point that I think that we're going to see that the Blazers engage. The Heat don't have to engage. And this is the point that I'm trying to make to everybody. The Heat do not have to make this deal. They don't. Now, that is different from saying they should make this deal, because I think they should make this deal. I think they should. So don't misunderstand me. But they don't have to. And I think the Blazers have been counting on the fact that the Heat have to make this trade. They don't have to make this trade. They just went to the finals. And I actually think the roster, and I know some disagree with me, Greg disagrees with me, some others, I think the roster is better than it was in the finals. Because for starters, Tyler Hero's healthy, right? Jimmy's healthy for now. You've added Josh Richardson to replace who? Max Strus? To me, it's a push. You've lost Gabe Vincent. Okay. But you've strengthened the front court and Thomas Bryant. That's an upgrade over Zeller. You've got Jovic looking like he's going to be a rotation player. That was not the case last year. And now you've added Hawkins. You're better, I think, than you were last year. And you've got Caleb Martin coming into camp with extreme confidence, which was, not the case last year. He hadn't done that, okay? No, Office Depot, I'm telling you, Rob, it was cut rate prices on everything. And they helped my daughter. They went through the whole thing. I highly recommend. They're all closing anyway, so it's not like it's not like you can make it a consistent pattern. But you're at a point that you don't have to make this trade. So this comes in from Cody. You got to keep 2 of 4 in your opinion. JJJ, Hero, Jovic, and Martin. Okay, so we did this episode last night. It's not going to post yet. It's going to post tonight. And we were the first, I think, out there to say that they were trying to keep Tyler and get Dame. I think you remember us doing that episode about 3 weeks ago. Now we saw a report about it yesterday. There is a path to it. There's a financial path to it. It's not easy. You got to thread the needle, and you've got to still get enough first-round picks to entice Portland. We did an episode last night. Would you rather keep Tyler, or would you rather say Hawkins is going? Because I think Hawkins is going regardless. That's my. If I was to say of those 4, the one who's certain to go, I think it's Hawkins. And there's a couple of reasons for that. I think that the Heat privately value Jovic more long term. That's an educated guess. Greg has the same educated guess, by the way, based on the way that they've talked, the way that they've acted. I think they value Jovic more long term. I think they see higher upside there. Well, I know that, okay, that they see higher upside there. Question was whether or not Hawkins would contribute more immediately. But my point to that is that neither of them is going to be more than a 20-minute-a-game player this year anyway. So if that's the case, try to keep the guy with the higher upside. Okay. But anyway, of those 4. So we said, okay, Hawkins is likely gone. And Tira, I'll get to that in a second. So would you rather keep Tyler, or would you rather keep Caleb and Jovic? To me, that's easy. You keep Tyler. And I understand how good a fit Caleb is with this group, but people aren't taking the financials into consideration here, because they're thinking, oh, Caleb is such a great deal. He is. He's a tremendous deal last year and this year. But then they're going to have to pay him. And I'm telling you, if Caleb Martin does anything anywhere close to what he did this season, he's 4 years, $80 million. Just is. Look at what Dylan Brooks just got. So are the Miami Heat after next season going to pay 4 years, something along those lines, 4 years, $80 million? Or would you rather keep Tyler at his current 27 per year, when Tyler's considerably younger and has honestly a harder skill set to find? I mean, I love the 3-and-D component. I am a huge Caleb Martin fan and was before the Eastern Conference Finals. Brady and I identified him in a scrimmage, his first scrimmage 2 years ago with the Heat, and said he's going to be a rotation player. We are big fans of his. But Tyler Hero has the higher upside than Caleb Martin. He just does. And to me, it's not just upside. He's 23 years old. You plug him next to Dame, you have a 3-guard rotation of Dame, Tyler, and Josh Richardson. You have everything you need in that rotation. Josh will cover up defensively for one or the other. Is Tyler worth that money as a potential 3-player in the rotation? If you're trying to win a championship, he is. And here's the thing about the money, okay? If you are going after Dame Lillard, which is what the Heat should be doing, I don't want to hear about money with the other stuff. Because you are competing to win not just a championship, but you're trying to win multiple championships in Jimmy's window then. You have to pay for it. Sorry, you have to pay for it. Like, if this is a middling team, I understand not going into above the apron, the first apron, the second apron. I understand the mechanics and how you lose the if you go in the second apron, that you lose the ability to have mid-level exceptions and all that. But let's be honest. If you have a core of Jimmy, Dame, Bam, and Tyler, you're going to have at least 2 guys every year who will come to you for less money. Just like I think Oubre and Wood might now. Carnival stock was going up. I dumped it. It's gone down. That was actually a good sale by me. It's okay. And this point from Cody, I also think Martin can be replaceable for Oubre or Wood. And not just that, not just this year, but it's one of the reasons I think they got Josh Richardson, because he does some of the things that he does. I don't know if Oubre and Wood will take them in. I think one of them will. I don't think they're going to get both. I think the other minimum is going to be Goran Dragic. Just that's the way that this headed. Jay said, "Did you cry if Hero goes, or Jovic will be like that? Will it be like the Caron Butler trade?" I'm not crying about anything. I want to make something clear. You get Dame Lillard, however you want to get Dame Lillard. My opinion on this is that there will be regret in the Heat fan base if Tyler makes a couple all-star teams down the road after, say, Dame is declining, or if Jovic becomes what he looks like he's going to become. But I still think you made the trade. You make the trade in the same way that Caron, blossomed somewhat when he left Miami. Never became he was an all-star one year, I believe, but was never a superstar. Lamar was a contributor, significant contributor, 6-man, occasional starter on a couple title teams. But you still make the trade for Shaq every time, right? And the reason, again, that you make these trades is because as an organization, not only can you get minimum guys because players are going to want to play with you, and there's always a couple every year that get discarded for one reason or another, and the Heat and Eric Spoelstra look at it and say, we can make something of this guy. So there will always be a couple of those. But also the Heat's ability to find these gems, these undrafted players, to plug the 8th, 9th, 10th place in the rotation, like, say, they did with Haywood Highsmith last year, and they might with Cole Swider this year, or they might with Booyah, or they might with one of the others. That is an advantage that they've created for themselves that they can exploit. That's one of the reasons you can go with a more top-heavy roster, because you can plug those holes with the way that you've done things in recent years. So I am all for going in, exactly, and that's Welsh's point. The goal is championships. Gives a better chance you do it. You figure out the future later. Exactly, especially when your star is 34 and your team president is 77, right? I mean, you try to get this done now. Like, they've created a succession plan. It's pretty clear that Andy Ellisberg is going to have a lot to say in the future. That's why they gave him the promotion. Eric Spoelstra, Adam Simon. But look, Pat wants another one before he's done. He's 77 years old. It's a reality of life. Look, he's not as quick on his feet as he was 10 years ago. Trust me, okay? It happens. And so I just think that you try to make the move now. You deal with the consequences later. But I'm just saying, if, and this cycles back to the beginning of this episode, if the Blazers have hurt their leverage, which I believe they have with this stupid waiting game, okay, to wait for an offer that is not going to exist. And now they've got to bring a guy to camp, okay, potentially, who not only is disgruntled, although he won't show it as publicly as Harden does, okay, but also it is disadvantageous to have him take the floor for you this year, because if you are the Portland Trailblazers, you are trying to get as high up in the lottery as you can, or you should be. You have a young core. You desperately need young front court players. You should be tanking this year. You shouldn't be putting Dame on the floor to accidentally win 6 games that may lead to you either losing your lottery pick because, losing your non-lottery pick, because, by the way, that goes to Chicago. Okay, if, say, you accidentally make the play-in, right? which I don't think is going to happen in the West, but you never know. Or at the very least, you lose spots in the lottery, and this is a thin draft coming up compared to this last one, supposedly. Okay, that changes over the course of the year. But so far, it's supposed to be top heavy. So if that's the case, if you're Portland, why do you want to slip 4, 5, 6 lottery spots? Get in the top 3. Why play Dame and win 6 meaningless games in November or December before you realize you got to make a trade? And yes, Taro, Aunt Hallie and Mikhail joined Spone basketball game. I'm saying, listen to our episode this morning. It's up. We talked about that. Also talked about Jaren Jackson Jr. That's the guy that's Alex wants Spo to recruit while he's there. But look, I the way I look at it, like Portland it's self-defeating to bring Dame to camp to win games. Miami, bringing Tyler Hero to camp, obviously you try and win games. And the way Tyler's handled his situation this offseason, which I think is very admirable in my opinion, having the camps, showing up on Miami Pro League, showing up on Twitter Spaces, showing that, look, it bugs him that he's in trade talks, but he's going to use it to drive to get better. That all benefits Miami. I would go to camp and go, we're fine. Joe, you handle your situation. How things going for you, Joe? How things going? How's Dame? Dame happy? Organization had a chance to turn things over to Scoot. Does Scoot feel like it's his team, or are all the questions about Dame? And from Cody, people say Dame is too old being 33. Steph Curry is 36. Conditioning is different these days. Dame has never been a player who has absorbed a ton of contact. He's not Dwayne, right? Dame's game is primarily perimeter. Now, he can get to the basket. He does get to the basket, but he's not Iverson. He's not Dwayne in that regard. I do not think his body's going to just fall off a cliff. I don't. Jimmy absorbs a ton of contact. Dame does not. You don't absorb a ton of contact when you're shooting from 40 feet. He'll be fine. So anyway, this is where I'm at with all this. Got September 15th, start to pivot, start to think about it, because Joe Cronin's going to. I do not know if Dame will ultimately get to camp, but I do believe there will be discussions going on during that period of time. If it doesn't happen by the time the camp starts, yes, there will be questions about it in Miami, but Miami, to me, is still a top 5 seed in the Eastern Conference, whether they get Dame or not. I think the one thing that could change this equation is if the Heat come out of the gate flying, and Tyler's playing great, and Jovic is in the rotation, and they lower whatever it is they were willing to offer to Portland, and then maybe it doesn't happen. But I still think it's going to happen. I think Joe Cronin needs it to happen. There's nowhere else for him to send Dame at this point, and there will not be. And we'll just look at this summer as we should have all just taken a vacation. Go get your school supplies. No, it's actually too late at this point. All right, everybody, have a good day. Thanks to Manny for producing. Thanks to All Pro Construction Builders. Just want to update everybody. We'll do more, in case you've missed like the last month. Like I said, you didn't miss much. But we're heading to a point where you might. That's what I'm talking about. We'll talk Dolphins, Jonathan Taylor, if that happens. Lenny's correct. Dame's game has longevity to it. Dame will be just fine. He's literally coming off his best offensive season. I believe Media Day will be something around September 30th. It'll be the last Monday of September, first Monday of October. It's always when it is. Thank you, Jay Sanchez. We appreciate it. Have a good day, everybody.